So for bowling on the PBA Tour, I'm kind of rev challenged, and I know a lot of you guys that watch my videos, you also want to get a higher rev rate. But there is a way to combat that and work with a lower rev rate and still have success without having to try and hit the ball as hard as you can every shot to get your rev rate as high as possible every shot. I use a lot of lower speed. Like I lower my speed, sometimes I lower it a little bit, sometimes a lot, to make up for my rev rate being a little bit lower. My rev rate is about 375, so you might be in an environment where 375 would be a high rev rate, but for the PBA Tour, where most of the guys are in the 450s or 500s, 370 is kind of low. But lower speed makes up for a lot of what a higher rev rate will give you. It's not the same, but it does help a whole lot. And for a lot of people with a little bit of practice, it's a lot easier to repeat and do than try to hit the ball as hard as you can to get those extra 50 or 100 revs. So today I'm going to show you how I lower my speed, when I do it, what happens when I do it, and I'm going to use Specto to show you when I lower my speed, and yeah, I'm going to show you on lane what it looks like. So, all right, first up, normal speed. Hold. That was a little bit straighter than I was trying to do, but Specto tells me that was 18.7 miles an hour off my hand. Throw another one so you can kind of see what I'm trying to do here. That was better. So 18.6. Right now it's saying my rev rate is about 400. A little bit higher than normally measures me at, but that's probably, I'd say that's a combo of my angle and probably the ball color, honestly. So yeah, but around 18.5 miles an hour, and you can tell like it doesn't, this high road 40 doesn't pick up enough right now. For a player with a 450, 500 rev rate, this high road 40 would probably pick up plenty, but it's not doing it for me right now. So I need to get my speed a little bit lower to get it to read the friction on the lane a little bit earlier, so it has more time to hook and get into that roll phase, which will help us carry a lot better. So gonna try to go a little bit slower here. All right, so 17.6. So it's about a mile an hour slower off my hand. Got it a little bit further right, and you can tell it's actually making it back to the pocket a little bit better. So that's definitely, that helps. That's a small speed adjustment. That's something I'll make if I like the line I'm playing. I just needed to pick up a little bit earlier, or if I'm trying to adjust my carry a little bit, if I feel like my ball is just skidding a little too far down the lane and I'm having trouble carrying the 10 pin, I'll make that kind of like a small speed adjustment to get the entry angle and the deflection a little bit different. So I feel like this whole thing with being able to throw it slower, it gives you a lot of different options, because with the amount of urethane there's a lot of carry down, so now a lot of the shorter or medium patterns get stretched, so they play much longer, which is an advantage for a lot of the higher rev guys, because they usually don't like the shorter patterns. They have a hard time controlling the ball on the shorter patterns. Now they get stretched, so now the higher rev rate actually becomes an advantage. And with a lower rev rate, often we just run into my ball won't hook, my ball won't pick up. So we need to lower that speed if we can't get an extra 50 or 100 rev rate and still be able to repeat our shots. And I can't do that. I can add a little bit of rev rate, but it's much easier for me to just lower my speed. Another thing with the lower rev rate, because we're hook challenged, so to speak, we often like to play straighter, and we're often forced to play straighter. But if you're able to lower your speed, you can move left. So instead of having a really good look for the first game when you can play straight and then it slowly goes away because you just can't move left and take advantage of the dry area that's being created by the transition, by all the balls being thrown to the right. All the time the higher rev rate is going to be left of you. They're going to take away all your hold because they're basically removing all the oil on the lane left of where you're playing. So you're going to have a really hard time when the lanes start to break down. If you're able to lower your speed, you'll be able to move further left and actually get into those spots of the lane where there's still some fresh oil, there's still some hold, and you can kind of take advantage of the room that's being created as the lanes transition and as they get broken down, which maybe you're not going to be able to completely shoot the same scores as the higher rev guys, but at least you're going to be able to keep up with them and then hopefully beat them on the fresh. Let's try to do one where we try to do that. We try to move left, take advantage of the dry that's hopefully created to the right. So we're going to move 10 left. So that's here. Now the first one I'm going to try to throw still at like 17.5, so you can see what happens. Oh. So 17.6, that was pretty good. So obviously that one still picked up okay, but it was still getting a little too far down the lane. Like if I didn't get lucky and get the messenger, that was a flat 10. So I still needed to pick up a little bit sooner. Probably on this lane, everybody played a little further left, as I said. So now instead of me being in the really straight part of the lane where I have one shot that looks pretty good but goes light, one shot that goes really light, and then the next one I try to adjust and then I go high. Now I'm probably more in the right part of the lane where the part of the lane that has been broken down, where there's a little more room. So now I just need to adjust my speed a little bit more to make my ball do the right thing there. So I probably need to get it down to like 17. And after this shot, I'm gonna tell you how I adjust my speed. That was pretty good. 16.6, about a mile slower again. And we went from that little bit too far down lane, flat 10 area, to going flush. So, and that's just that's a 2 mile an hour difference here. So I can go a lot slower, which I'm going to show you, and that's going to allow me to really start hooking the lane and playing some angles that I normally wouldn't be able to play unless my rev rate was 500. But what I'm actually doing when I try to throw it slower, I'll move up on the approach a little bit, make my approach just a pinch shorter. I'll hold the ball a little bit lower, kind of get everything a little more compact, and then I'm not trying to necessarily walk slower, but I'll try to make, because my approach is a little shorter, I'll make my steps a little bit slower. My swing, I'm going to make my swing feel shorter, and I'm still going to accelerate. That's very important. You can't like throw it slower by being cautious at the release. That's just going to ruin your release and your consistency. You still have to be aggressive at the bottom. Everything up to that just has to be shorter and slower. That's how I feel it. That's how I think of it. So basically getting everything, my entire technique, a little more compact, a little lower to generate less speed. It can be a little bit tricky at first, but when you start working on it, I feel like this is a really good way of doing it, also because it mentally tells you, hey, I'm moving up on the approach, I'm holding the ball lower, I'm trying to make everything a little bit slower, that you're trying to really throw it slower. So let's throw another one from the same spot here, see if we can hit about 16.6. So from my normal starting position, I'm moving up about half a foot here, holding the ball just a little bit lower, and really trying to just be short with the swing. That looks pretty good. 16.6 again. That looks pretty good. Now I've moved 10 left, so I'm in a part of the lane where the transition has allowed the lane to play to be some room, so in the right part of the lane, but I can only be there because I'm throwing the ball slower. If I threw it at my normal speed, like 18 and a half miles an hour, no way this ball would be picking up. I would have to throw a completely different ball, and that might not even do the right thing then. So speed, being able to lower your speed and then controlling it, super important. So let's try going like really slow, moving really far left to show you how much you can actually do with speed. And if you're checking the spectrum numbers while I'm doing this, my rev rate hasn't really changed. So I'm doing the same with basically the same release, just different speeds. All right, so we'll move another 10 left. So now I'm gonna go, this is probably around 1.5 feet up from my normal starting position. I'm gonna hold the ball like basically underneath my belt level, and I'm gonna be really short and slow with it. Oh! That was just a miss, right? But you can see 15.1, that's another 1.5 miles slower. Probably getting close to like my limit that I can do consistently, but you kind of get the picture. That's 3.5 miles an hour slower than where we started. And when I throw one a little bit better here, that's gonna make a huge difference. This is also 20 boards left of where I was starting playing, which is a big move. Bad carry. 15.4, so basically, yeah, around 3.5 miles an hour slower. I can do that fairly consistently, and that's gonna help me if I need to get into that area of the lane, or if I'm bowling on something that's super long, super tight, or has a ton of urethane carry down, being able to throw it that slow is gonna really help me. And it's gonna really help you if you're struggling with, maybe your misses is always 10 pin, so you need to be able to throw it a pinch slower. Maybe you 210 or 2810 a whole lot. Like that's your miss every time you get a little firm or something. That should tell you that the ball is getting a little too far down lane. So again, your speed needs to be a little bit slower. Maybe you're struggling when the lanes transition game 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because you just can't move far enough left and get into where there's actually room. So you need to throw it way slower so you can actually move in there. Yeah, so 15.3, rev rate's still basically the same. It's been like 370, 380 on every shot. So I can basically cover the entire lane from going really straight to really hooking the ball, even on something that when I was throwing it firmer and playing straighter, this lane felt pretty tight. Now I can hook the entire lane without issue, and the ball actually goes through the pins pretty well.